There have been many people remarking about the President's speech yesterday. Glenn Greenwald of The Guardian wrote, in response to political scandal and public outrage, official Washington repeatedly uses the same well-worn tactic. It is the one that has been hauled out over decades in response to many of America's most significant political scandals. Predictably, it is the same one that shaped President Obama's much heralded Friday speech to announce his proposals for reforming the National Security Agency in the wake of 7 months of intense worldwide controversy. The crux of this tactic is that U.S. political leaders pretend to validate and even channel public anger by acknowledging that there are serious questions that have been raised. They vow changes to fix the system and ensure these problems never happen again. And they then set out with their actions to do exactly the opposite, to make the system prettier and more politically palatable with empty cosmetic reforms so as to placate public anger while leaving the system fundamentally unchanged, even more immune than before the serious challenge. This scam has been so frequently used that it is now easily recognizable. In the mid-70s, the Senate uncovered surveillance abuses that had been ongoing for decades, generating widespread public fury. In response, the U.S. Congress enacted a new law, FISA, which featured two primary safeguards: a requirement of judicial review for any domestic surveillance and newly created committees to ensure legal compliance by the intelligence community. But the new court was designed to ensure that all of the government's requests were approved. It met in secret. Only the government's lawyers could attend. It was staffed with the most pro-government judges, and it was even housed in the executive branch. As planned, the court, over the next 30 years, virtually never said no.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Well, citizens, the whole setup is a dictatorship. In fact, we are living under one now. You must understand, no matter what he says, he will do the opposite. That's the plan. It is a way of getting you to drop your defenses, drop your arms, so your trust can again be abused, or perhaps abolished. This comes from the Abuser's Handbook. It's also what happened to every Native American in this country, and in fact, we are all living on reservations. Our time is reserved. The new smallpox blankets are now vaccines, maybe even Obamacare. The plan of the pathological sociopath, psychopath, and liars all begin with the distraction of a promise before carrying out their bidding of a higher plan. Let me put it this way. One day, your lover has not only cheated on you and made love to all your friends, but also has had sex with your children, even killed a few, and then went over to your dying parents' deathbed, convinced them to sign their will over under duress, and then pulled the plug. Afterwards, they came home, raped you repeatedly, or beat you to a near pulp, and then said, "Let's have dinner." This goes both ways, by the way, for men and women. So try to picture the worst case scenario you might have with the most terrible partner in the world. Then, after that, they say, "Let's eat." Now, if you're lucky to be alive and you're not lying in your own pool of blood or a coma, you're forced to eat dinner and swallow everything on your plate. During this period, your abuser begins to brag about how wonderful their day was, and they thought you'd really like hearing about that wonderful favor they did for you. What is your next choice of action? Do you really think that a talk is what is needed here? What is the sickest thing you could do for yourself right now? Do you stay in that sick relationship, or do you get the abuser out of the house? And if you get them out of the house, how do you prevent one of their sick friends from taking over or even taking their place? Maybe even walking into your world, into your bedroom, and finishing the job. After all, your lover had connections in very high places, with very powerful people watching your every move, watching their every move. Who knows? Maybe it was those connections that put your lover up to those dirty deeds. In fact, you yourself might be the next victim. This is if the bruises and welts on your soul weren't enough. Damage control will practically take an army, or certainly some powerful weaponry to back it up. You now have come to an impasse. You've lost everything and have no choice but to risk it all, if not for yourself, for the sake of your children. Maybe it could start with one small move. Maybe if you could find the most powerful cronies in his corner, along with him, you could have them all arrested. That would at least buy time, right? Will you do that? Or will you remain a hostage to your freedoms and continue enjoying the abuse like the victims of Stockholm and forgive them for their trespasses, no matter how deadly they are? Till another day, Stony Wolf, Radioactive News. Peace.